uh, I think that feminism, if you want to like put that word on it, has sort of led the way. Womanism really has
Mm,
led the way for redefinition of gender for a lot of us. And so when I think about how masculinity has and hasn't changed, I do look at sort of the blueprint that feminism has given us
mm,
to view things more expansively. And
yeah.
so it is really interesting in this country that there has been some changes in how we define masculinity. I think nowadays we're having more conversations than ever about what men's emotional and psychological needs are. And I find
Mm,
that so encouraging.
yeah.
I also know that's not the prevailing conversation,
Right.
right? Of like, this is what it means to be a man. We think about, the highest office in the land, right? And now in the United States, and how, those people may define masculinity, how they demonstrate masculinity. That's actually part of the tension that we're experiencing right now. Any man, especially Black men and young Latino men as well, sort
Mm.
of is like, okay, where's that tension between this recognition that I have needs, that there are things that I want to accomplish in my life, things that are important to me, but also I'm seeing a lot of reinforcement of that static view of masculinity that is
Right.
very punitive, aggressive, violent, etc. So that, where do I land? What's going to get me what I feel like I need? And I think that's a
Right.
lot of the challenge we're experiencing right now.
When it comes to having a meditative practice as a man, as a Black man, right? For me, if you're going to embrace a meditative practice, that means that you're at least acknowledging that growth is possible. You're acknowledging that emotions exist. You're acknowledging that mental health is a thing. And we have no problem, I don't think, talking about the fact that we do not allow young boys to fully occupy their humanity. We have a lot of people who can, and maybe it's not as pervasive of a conversation as I would like it to be, but we do have at least an understanding that allowing men to fully sit in their emotions and to experience all of them is fundamentally tied to their mental health and well-being. But it has sometimes felt like conversations that would empower brothers to sit in that space can often turn into, well, it's toxic masculinity versus the masculinity my daddy had, and my daddy wasn't even there. So it just, it feels like we acknowledge that there is a challenge here, but the way to approach it still seems to be very fraught with a lot of challenged discourse that is not necessarily designed to lead any of the people conversating about it to a space where we can recognize not only do Black men deserve to experience the fullness of their emotions, but they actually have a pathway to do it.
Absolutely. And I think that, especially within community, within the Black community in particular, we have this challenge because we have this intergenerational and internalized view of masculinity that we may not even be entirely conscious of in
Mm,
everyday life, right? We have these thoughts and ideas about what it means to be a man, what a man is supposed to do. And so for everyone in the community, even though you consciously may want Black men to have more space to be themselves, to honor their needs, right? When that happens, as a partner, as a sister, as a sibling, whoever, as a mother, you're also then challenged, right?
mm,
Your ideas, beliefs, and thoughts that are deeply ingrained are also challenged, because now you're also seeing this Black man show up in a way maybe you haven't seen, and you have no script for how to respond. And so you
wow.
may also rely on all your old stories, all your own ways of
Ooh.
being to respond in the moment. And so it really has to be this collective and community shift where we
Mm.
say, oh, all of us have to be thinking about masculinity for Black men differently in order for us to get to a point where Black men feel like they can have their needs met, they can communicate healthily in relationships, they can take care of themselves and not die prematurely. Like, we need the community to move forward in this way.
So this isn't so much about saving the brothers. This is about saving the community.
100%. It's about all of us.
So, and I think that's one of the fundamental differences, at least with how I see feminism and womanism. Like, feminism has this "we can go it alone" type thing, and I'm like, I got a good Black husband. I ain't never gonna leave his Black ass. No, sir. I'm trying to raise. I like my Black community. I like having men in it. I love it when we have the capacity to have Black love across the orientation timeline and spectrum. That is a value to me, and I believe in the Kwanzaa principle of umoja. We can't get to freedom if half of us don't get to freedom. So for me, it's not an option. Now, I know that other people may see it slightly differently, but this isn't about, doing what we can to save the boys. This is about the condition of our community, because as we enter this new era, and this is just my theory, you ain't got to agree, but as we enter this new era, it feels to me Like if we are being told by the people upon whom we depended for all of our community's needs being met, they have just been like, we not that into y'all. We don't really want to be, we don't want y'all over here. We don't want you in our sandbox. Y'all got to go. Well, we got to go together. And if our healing is in our ability to sustain ourselves and build for ourselves and have a Kuji Chagalia self-determinating approach to ourselves, we can't do that with half our population unhealthy and on a whole. Like that's to me, it feels like a disconnect. I don't know if you see it differently.
No, absolutely. And I think, a lot of my work is always focused on helping people be with themselves better, with the understanding that when we are with ourselves better, we can be with others better. Right. And so this is why I offer things like meditations for Black men or self-care for Black men. Any of the things that I put out there in the world is to help people develop a better relationship with themselves so that one, you communicate, one, you deserve that. You are worthy of health. You are worthy of wellness. Black men need to be talked about in the wellness space, and not just because you can deadlift X amount of weight, right? But because we deserve the fullness of our humanity. And once we have that for ourselves, we can also be so much better about extending that care, compassion, and collaboration outwards. And that benefits everyone.
This is an important pivot point for all of us, and it's going to be something that's requiring us to really think differently about a whole lot of things. And so walk us through some of the meditations for Black men. Walk us through how you are seeing Black men use these sort of approaches to self-healing and self-care. I think there are so many wounds right now, and I have plenty of sister friends who was like, I had my little cry, I did what I had to do, I got to purge, it's good. But I don't have a lot of and all the brothers I know are similarly frustrated and angry, but don't necessarily have that same acceptance for acknowledging their emotional transition through this current moment. Walk us through how meditations for Black men could help brothers who are struggling with what we're dealing with right now, the magnitude of what's happening, the pressure to feel like you're going to have to provide in this environment that is designed to not allow you to provide, and the pressure of being told you have to provide when, frankly, we are all called to provide and we're all called to care. How do the meditations for Black men help brothers to navigate moments like the ones we're in?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it's also really interesting because this moment that we're in is the moment we've been in, right?
Ooh.
Like if we really want to be serious and honest about it, right? This is the moment we've always been in.
Right.
And so it's very acute right now. And I certainly don't want to invalidate or minimize that for people. But I think what meditations for Black men does really well is it helps meet Black men where they're at. And so if you are someone who has experience with meditation, you're going to find something that feels really aligned content wise. It speaks to you in your individual experience as a Black man in this country that maybe other meditations do not, right? And I think if you're new to meditation, what I've done is sort of design this audio book meditation program that has an arc to it, right? We start with really connecting with the breath or getting in touch with your body first so you can learn to be with yourself.
Well, hold on now. Ain't nobody touching nobody. What you mean getting in touch with my body? I can just hear my one of my uncles.
Right.
I can hear some, what do you mean getting in touch with your body? That sounds like that freaky dicky now. Now, what do you mean when you say that getting in touch with your body and getting in touch with your breath?
Yeah, what I mean is like really understanding what it means to pause and acknowledge what's happening for you internally. What does it feel like actually when you take a full deep breath? What does your mind do when you have space in which you're not feeling pressured? Right. And so we start the meditation program with things like a quick body scan, which is 5 minutes. Right. So, and then it builds upon itself where then we get to a mindful walking practice. We get to a deep mindful breathing practice. And we go through these other categories of mind and spirit, right? And talking about things like healing a parental wound, right? Because we talk a lot about, I think in the community, we love to throw around the sort of like daddy issues idea when we're talking about women. And I'm like, okay, but Black men have daddy issues too.
Right, because you also got left. When he left both of us.
Right, and we also have mommy issues too. Right,
and so that's for both of us.
Right, and so there are wounds that we have And so there's a meditation on healing a parental wound. So it takes
Mm.
you through the process of like learning how to acknowledge and be with that feeling, whatever it is, creating
Yeah.
space for that, and then seeing how you can transmute that, or if there's anything that you can do with that, giving you the permission just to be with that experience.
Mm.
And so, yeah, and also there's another meditation on connecting with the ancestors, which I think is so critical right now. And,
Yes.
looking back to all the people who have fought for us and given us a blueprint for how to survive really difficult times. How do we
Mm.
make it through with internally in our spirits, and also in community, right?
Yes.
How can we connect and practice connecting to those voices, those messages, those stories, and let that be a source of resiliency and inspiration for us right now?